Chair, we are now live. Over to you.
Thank you, Wendy. Could you do a roll call of members, please?
Certainly. Councillor Bloxham.
Present.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Present.
Councillor Coleman.
Present.
Councillor Davey.
Present.
Councillor Desarum.
Present.
Councillor Gazzard.
Present.
Councillor Howe.
Present.
Councillor Key.
Present.
Councillor Mclaughlin.
Present.
Councillor Pook.
Present.
Councillor Skinner.
Present.
Councillor Whibley.
Present.
Councillor Woodward.
Present.
Councillor Ragg.
Present.
Thank you. I can confirm we are quorate.
Thank you. So we're now on agenda item 9, application 2017-26, full 1 Hamlet Cottages, Weston, and it's on page 74. Now, is Mr. Keegan Faraday here?
Hi, Chair. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. Welcome
Good
to
news.
the meeting, Mr. Faraday.
Thank you.
You will have 3 minutes to speak, and you'll be advised 30 seconds before your time is up. Now, go to Mr. Rose to present his report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an application for a change of use of a workshop to a dwelling. So hopefully you can see on the screen, the workshop is within this red line, and we've also got the blue line here for a wider area of in the applicant's ownership for their business. The application's here because it's contrary to view of the ward member, and it proposes a 1-bed single dwelling. And you can see the sites off the old A30 right by the A30, and on your main agenda sheet you'll see from the plan on the top that we're just across the A30 from the Heath Park Industrial Estate, so very close to that facilities in Honiton. And this is the base for a landscaping business. So this is the extent of the site. So this is the building that it relates to. So there's an existing access in here that leads all the way up through to new building for the business at the back that I'll mention in a minute. And the proposal is to convert this building, provide a parking space and some garden area. So it's a single plan workshop at the moment. These are the elevations. And it's proposed to convert it into a 1-bed unit with some external alterations, but very few to the building. So slate roof rendered with some new windows. And this is that building at the moment. So that's the building proposed to be converted. The front here will become garden and parking, with parking to the rear and continued access through to, and you can see from this photo, the new building at the rear of the site that I'll mention. So in 2010, this building was refurbished, but prior to that, in 96, there was a refusal for a dwelling on the site. There's also refusals in 2014 for 2 dwellings because it didn't comply with any policies at the time. Further refusals in 2015 because there was a lack of planning policy support for residential dwellings outside the built-up area boundary. Then in 2016, we had an application in to build this replacement workshop at the rear of the site. So to move the business from this smaller business building and yard at the front to more larger purpose-built facilities at the back. And that included the demolition of this building. And then in 2018, we had a further application here for a new build dwelling that was refused because it was new build outside or on employment land and outside of the built-up area boundary. And then in 2019, we had an application to retain this building. So the 2016 consent for the new yard and building at the back also showed this building being demolished. But in 2019, they stated they needed the extra floor space, so we granted the retention of that building. And that's the situation that we have today. And the proposal now is to convert this building to residential dwelling. So we're outside of the built-up area boundary, but this local plan has policy D8 in it, which members will be aware of, which allows conversions of existing building to residential use where they're close to a built-up area boundary. And in this case, we're just across the A30 from all the employment land at Heath Park. So it's considered to comply with D8 in terms of being close to a built-up area boundary. Policy D8 has a number of criteria to it. So it says the residential use should be compatible with the area. Well, it will be compatible with this site and the adjoining residential property to the left of this screen. It says the building should be structurally sound, which it is. The design should be acceptable. The few design changes, but what are proposed are acceptable. There's no highway safety concerns. It's coming in off an existing access that serves the site. And although there's the loss of this existing building, you can see in this photo the replacement building that was provided as part of that 2016 consent to the rear. Now, there has been a change in narrative from the applicant on this site. So they stated they didn't need this building when they built the new building to the rear. Then they came in last year and sought to retain the building because they said that they required the floor space. And now they're arguing that they don't need the floor space and therefore it can be turned into residential use. But despite this change in narrative, we've got a site that's close to a built-up area boundary, and we have already, as you can see, consented the replacement of this building with a larger building to the rear. So given that that 2016 consent granted that building and granted the removal of this building, overall, there won't be any loss of any employment floor space compared to what was granted in 2016. And given the benefits from providing a small unit, it can provide a garden area to the front, parking to the front, a small garden area to the rear, and subject to providing a screen to that rear garden area to protect it from the yard to the business, there's not considered to be any harm from the proposal. So in light of that, and now that development on the site in terms of conversion has support under policy D8, the recommendation is for approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Mr. Faraday, would you like to begin speaking, please?
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Chair, thank you, councillors. My name is Keegan Faraday and I'm a planning consultant at Avalon Planning and Heritage, and I'm representing the applicant speaking in support of the proposal. The application is for a change of use of an existing workshop to a one-bedroom residential unit with minor alterations. These include an internal subdivision to create the bedroom, bathroom and living space, and the installation of new windows and doors. Retrospective planning consent was granted to retain the workshop in January 2020 after it was previously marked for demolition through an earlier approval. So whilst the landscaping business began to experience growth throughout 2019, resulting in an additional requirement for storage, there was a sudden drop in demand, which has in part been intensified by COVID-19 restrictions. More significantly, the business undertook a review of how materials would be kept on site and found it was more efficient to store them in the main yard and utilise the other building, as it lessened time to load up before heading to jobs. As a result, the building has now become surplus to requirement. Although alternative uses for the building have been explored, a restrictive condition means the building can presently only be used in conjunction with the existing landscape business. This severely limits its options. Even if this condition were to be overcome, its size as an individual commercial unit is unlikely to be viable for many businesses, and its proximity to residential dwellings limits any intensive industrial use. Therefore, being located just 30 metres from the built-up area boundary, within an existing residential cluster on the outskirts of Weston and Honiton, a change of use to create a high-quality residential dwelling in a sustainable location with good links to services was considered the most appropriate solution, rather than allowing the building to fall into disuse. It's understood that residential development outside the built-up area boundary can be resisted in principle. However, this planning committee are respectfully reminded of recent appeal decisions for similar conversions in similar locations, which have been allowed due to proposals having a functional relationship with these limits, and as such, determined as satisfying policy D8 and strategy 7 of the local plan. These policy considerations are also applicable to the built form of the building, which will remain as existing due to the workshop having the structural integrity to support a conversion, therefore having no impact to the visual or landscape character. Being ancillary to a commercial premises, vehicle trips generated from a one-bed dwelling would also likely lessen any impacts to the local highway network. It's also of note that the conversion of the workshop will not result in any loss of employment, and the landscaping business will continue to operate as it does currently, albeit without the functional burden of maintaining financial burden of maintaining a redundant workshop. The application received no objections from neighbouring residents, but objections were received from the Parish Council and Councillor Bond.
30 seconds remaining, Mr.
Thank you.
Faraday.
Both of these comments were objections in principle and predominantly concerned with the precedent of an approval could create for further residential development. However, as the application proposes the reuse of an existing workshop, it's unlikely further residential development will become any more favourable in these locations and would, nevertheless, require an existing building ready for conversion. The Environmental Health Protection Officer had no objections to the application. In light of this information, I request this committee vote in favour with the Planning Officer's recommendation for approval. Thank you, and please let me know if there are any points of clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Keegan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you be prepared to answer any questions from committee members? If there are any?
No problem at all.
Thank you. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, would they put their blue hand up? I see David Key's got his blue hand up. But I
No,
don't,
not for questions.
no. If anyone has a question, can they put their blue hand up, please? Seems like you've explained it very well, you and Mr. Rose between you. So no questions. So Councillor Key.
I take it the ward member's not there, Chairman?
She's not on the list to speak.
No? Okay,
And
fine.
I'll just confirm with officers. Is Councillor Bond in the meeting?
No, she's not.
Okay, no.
Can I, first of all, could I ask Mr. Rose a question?
Yes,
Mr. Rose, is it possible that we could put a clause on there that no further development, would take place on this actual building? Can we put a clause on to cover that?
Councillor Key, do you mean in terms of further extensions to the building?
Yes, exactly. Permitted development.
Yes, you could do if you felt that there would be some harm from that. I'm just trying to think. They'd need consent to go upwards anyway. They'd need consent to come nearer the road. So I suppose it would only be if you felt that there could be some sort of concern from them extending out into the rear garden. So if you felt that there was a particular need to restrict them from being able to do that, then yes, you would be justified in putting a condition on.
Thank you. Right, now I'm not happy with it anyway, but if that clause could be put on there, I'd be happy to approve the recommendation with that clause.
so we would, that's an amendment, presumably.
Well, it'd be another.
You want a
Yes.
seconder for it?
I'll second Councillor Ragg.
Thank you. Right, can we take a vote on that then, on the amendment, please?
Madam Chair.
Excuse me, Chair, that is
Hello.
a substantive motion. It's not an amendment. Councillor Key
okay,
is
yeah.
proposing approval subject to that condition.
Subject to that condition.
So if you
So-
wish to move to debate.
Yes, I would. There are no other hands up at the moment. Councillor Howe.
Yeah, I'm slightly confused, and I would like clarification from Mr. Rose. I understand Councillor Key's position and why he's recommending what he's recommending, but I'm struggling to see the harm and why you'd want to remove permitted development rights. And in fact, what legal grounds we have when there is no harm shown by permitted development rights in this location. So I'm just struggling with it, and I cannot see how I could go along with the proposal as it stands. I just think a straight approval is the correct way to go. But I'd like to hear Mr. Rose's comments on the suggested condition to remove it, please.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, so there would, If members want to put the condition on removing the PD rights for permitted development rights for extensions, then they need to come up for a reason for that, as Councillor Howe is saying. So what is the reason that you would want to take away the right for these people to put a rear extension on the building, for example? I can't see that would be for visual reasons, bearing in mind it would be to the rear of the building. There doesn't seem to be any, it's quite a distance from the surrounding neighbours, so I can't see that there'd be a reason for harm to neighbour amenity. So the only reason I could come up with is if you think that by extending the rear of the property, it results in an unusable amenity area to the rear to the property, but that will be for you to judge. But they'd be limited in the size of extension they could put on under permitted development rights anyway. So you can put a condition on, but I'd need the reason for that and what it's trying to prevent, what harm it's trying to prevent from happening.
Overdevelopment of the site, Mr. Rose. That's what I was going for, because it's not an overbig site.
Even taking into account that there's a garden and parking at the front here.
Yes, yes, because they certainly wouldn't want it at the front because that would bring it closer to the road.
Okay, so that would be on the basis that you want to retain an adequate rear private amenity area and at the same time adequate distance from the rear access to the business.
Yes,
okay?
Yes.
Okay, I think that would meet the test, and you could be justified in putting that on.
Right, Councillor Davey next.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I don't really have a problem with this. I'm a bit surprised there's no windows on the south side, and in the interest of the amenity of future occupiers, I'm rather wondering why they didn't want to put any windows on the south side. It seems it wouldn't get any direct sunlight at all. I should perhaps have asked the applicant that, but perhaps Mr.
Well, I think he's still here, so perhaps Mr. Keegan could respond to that.
Hello. Yep, still here. So the purpose was really to be able to convert the building with as minimal alterations as possible. So we wanted to really just ensure that the structure as it is remained as it does, to pass the policy tests more than anything. I take on board Councillor Davey's point, but at this point I think this is the application that we're looking to progress as proposed, so we'd like to keep it as it is.
That seems very straightforward. Right, Councillor Skinner.
Thank you, Chair. It's a funny one, isn't it? I absolutely get where Councillor Key's coming from. I do, but Councillor Howe's made a pretty strong point, really. I mean, I'm just thinking to myself, just say this goes down the road of appeal. How well is overdevelopment going to stand up? I don't know. I think I'm just going to have to go for an approval as it is, to be fair. And yet I do understand the concerns from Councillor Key, but I just, in policy terms and the way it's going to roll out, I just think we're just perhaps digging ourselves a little bit of a hole, which we didn't really need to do. That's my view. I'll leave it to that, I think.
So you're making that a proposition, Councillor Skinner?
Sorry, I keep tapping my thing. It keeps disappearing when I go to tap them unmute. Sorry. Yes, I think I'm going to go for just for the approval as it stands, to be fair.
Yeah, thank you. Is there a seconder for that, please?
I will second that.
Thank you. Right, next we have Councillor Mclaughlin.
Thank you, Chair. I think that I condone with Mike, Councillor Howe. I can't see that we need to put any condition on there. If they want to extend that toward their garden on the left-hand side, as you'd be looking at the front of the property, So what? It makes absolutely no difference. It's not overdevelopment. It's quite a large site, really. So I go for the application as it stands with nothing amended. Yeah, I support it as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Woodward.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I don't see the need for an additional condition. As Mr. Rose has already explained, there's already limitations on what can happen without approval, further approval. So I'd be happy to go with approval of it as it stands without any additional conditions.
Thank you. Councillor Key, your hand is still up. Did you want to speak again? It's gone. Right, so there we have it, proposed as on the recommendation. Over to Mrs. Shaw, please.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, members, we have an amendment to the original proposal in the name of Skinner and Whibley that the application is approved with conditions as listed, just from my point of view, without the additional condition proposed by Councillor Key. Please, when your name is called, indicate whether you're in support of that amendment, whether you are against that amendment, or whether you are abstaining from the vote.
Councillor Bloxham.
Support.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Abstain.
Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, support the application as originally made. Not the amendment.
Councillor Davey.
Support.
Councillor Desaran.
Support approval with the conditions as listed without the additional conditions.
Councillor Gazzard.
Support with the extra condition.
Councillor Howe.
Support.
Councillor Key.
Object.
Councillor Mclaughlin.
Oh, support.
Councillor Pook.
Support.
Councillor Skinner.
Support.
Councillor Whibley.
Support as listed in the application without the extra amendment.
Councillor Woodward.
Support.
Councillor Ragg.
Support as recommended by officers.
Thank you. The motion to approve has been carried.
Thank you. Right. Thank you, Mr. Keegan, for attending. Now we go to agenda item 10, application 20-1166, full, Bystock Court, Old Bystock Drive, Exmouth, and it's on page 91. And can you confirm that Councillor Skinner has left to go into the waiting bin? He said the sin bin this morning. So
he is in the virtual lobby.
Thank you. Right, then we'll move on then. And Mr. Gigg, Malcolm Gigg, is he here?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Gigg, you know the procedure. I won't go through it again. So, Mr. Rose, could you present your report, please?
Thank you. Yeah, so this is an application at Bystock Court. It's for construction of a new daycare facility to support the existing care facility that is within Bystock Court itself. So you can see the wider Bystock Court here, the main building, driveway in, which I'll show you a photo of. And this is the application site here where they want to put this additional facility. The application's here because the applicant's related to a member, and Bystock Court itself is a grade 2 listed country house, part private dwelling, but part daycare facility, so community facility. So This is the existing plans. You see the road in, and we've got this area here to the side of the building where the existing building's adjacent and some trees, and the proposal is to infill this area with this new single-storey daycare facility. So these are the plans. I'll mention it in a minute. There are loss of 4 trees on the site to enable the building to take place. And these are the floor plan of the building. It's very much to functional and to reflect the size of the site and the constraints. And you can see here the design that's proposed. So it's outside the built-up area boundary for Exmouth, but it's at the edge of it, and policy RC5 of the local plan supports new community buildings on sites that are within or adjacent to built-up area boundaries, and this site is adjacent to, so it complies with policy RC5 in terms of the location of these types of facilities. And that's also supported by the neighbourhood plan for Exmouth that seeks to develop and improve on health and wellbeing services and to make the use of existing buildings and sites to their full potential. So there is support in principle for this proposal. With regard to design and impact, you've got the elevations on the screen at the moment. It's unusual design. You can see that it's got these external wooden struts and supports there, but officers support the design. It's not unattractive in itself. It's different to the main building, but that's no bad thing. And it will assimilate itself into the woodland setting. The applicant has carried out a site search for the building around the site to find the most appropriate location. So this is the very attractive listed building at the moment, and the site's up at the far end. So you won't view the building from this main approach to the site, and the site is in this area here. So you can see the wooded area. It's in here, and you can see existing buildings that are on the site. So you come up that approach road and then you get to the site. You can see that it's already covered with some trees, but there is an open area there at the moment. So as I say, the applicants carried out a search across the site to find the location that causes the least amount of harm, bearing in mind we've got trees around the site and we've got to be careful in terms of the setting to this grade 2 listed building. They've chosen this site because it's to the side of the building, so it's got very close links to the existing care facility. There are no public views of it on approach to the main building, and it's on this open area of land, so it's supported in terms of its design and the location chosen. There's also been a large extension previously added to the building, and this will be close to that facility. And obviously, we need to give special regard to the protection of the setting of the listed building, and you'll see from the reports that the conservation officers have been involved making a couple of changes to the design of the building, and they're now satisfied with the relationship. There will obviously be an impact on the setting of the listed building just by the fact it's so close to it, but that's inevitable when you are wanting to link these care facilities. But in any case, whilst there will be some impact, that's outweighed by the community benefits of this facility, the wider facilities. You'll see in the report that there's concerns about the loss of 4 trees on this site, including a couple of oak trees, which I go back to the plans, you can see them and outlined there, and you'll see that the tree officer has raised some concerns about that. The trees aren't TPO'd, but there are 2 large oaks that are proposed to be felled, and there's had to be a balance here between protecting the trees and finding the most appropriate site that has the least impact on the setting of the listed building, whilst also enabling the close link between the existing building and this new care facility. And you'll see from the report, officers feel that this is the best location, despite the need to fell a couple of those large trees, in terms of protecting the heritage asset and having those links for the uses and the community benefit from that. And the applicant has agreed to replacement trees for the replacement heavy standard trees to replace for the loss of those existing trees. There's no highway objection to the proposal, so it's taken off the existing access with people dropping off and parking to the main frontage here. And there's no neighbour amenity issues or concerns regarding ecology. So in light of the community benefits, the support for the proposal in local plan and neighbourhood plan policies, the good design and this being the best location in heritage terms and in terms of them operating the site, despite the loss of the 4 trees, the benefits are considered to outweigh that alongside the planting. So in light of that, the application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know whether I should declare an interest, but I'm going to anyway. I'd rather err on the side of caution. I went to Bystock Court in January last year at the invitation of Councillor Skinner. I didn't know what it was going to be about, but it was, he just wanted to talk. So I thought I should declare that at this point. Okay. Right, Mr. Gigg, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Chair, thank you for allowing me to talk before you today. We have worked very closely with both the planning team, conservation officer to prepare and submit an application that would be suitable for both its location and impact on the existing listed building adjacent, and be supported by the team, and are pleased that the application is recommended for approval. The proposals are to provide, as the officer's report sets out, an enhancement to the existing care facility, and this is already operated from the existing main listed building. As identified in the report, and proposed building would allow the provision of daycare on the site to be expanded and offer additional facilities which are not currently provided in the main building. There is an identified need for additional care facility within the Exmouth area and is supported by policy. During the application, we, along with the planning and conservation team at East Devon District Council, have looked at a number of locations, and this is identified as the most appropriate in terms of operation and setting of the listed building, together with the landscape impact. The application necessitates the loss of 4 trees on site to accommodate the new facility, and the tree officer's comments state that no replacement has been offered to compensate for the loss. However, as Chris said earlier, and the arboricultural report on page 2 does offer tree replacement, this being to a total of 4 new field maple trees and 4 new oak trees for the loss of the original 4 trees, this being 8 new trees in place of the 4 removed. The application set out well in the office's executive summary and overall report, clearly showing that the proposals are an identified need for Exmouth and in line with supported policy. In conclusion, the application has the support of the planning team recommending approval, the conservation officer, the Exmouth Town Council, the district councillor, and Devon Highways. The earlier comments relating to the tree officer's concerns for replacement trees has, as you can see, been incorporated into the proposals, and the tree report will form part of the approval. I would therefore ask that you support the officer's recommendation for this application and approve this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gigg. Right, members. Seems like nobody will. Oh yes, 2 hands appeared. 3. Councillor Desarum.
Thank you, Chair. I think that this is a very positive benefit. I think, as Councillor Chapman, the ward member, has said, the day centre will be a benefit to all who need the support, and my hope for the future of this site is it will be a great community hub and help for all who need it. There's been no objection from the Town Council. As we've heard from Mr. Rose, it's an unusual design, but it's not unattractive. We've also heard from the applicant that we've identified a need in Exmouth, which is quite important and necessary. So I would propose, although I'm not the ward member, I hasten to add, I would like to propose approval of this in line with all the conditions set. And obviously, I wait for other members to see what they would like to say as well.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'd like to call Councillor Andrew Coleman, as he is a ward member. Councillor Coleman, would you like to speak on this?
Hello, yes, I can say a few words. This came up in Exmouth Council a few months ago as well. I was initially a bit sceptical about this because it is outside the urban area of Exmouth, but I think it is a very worthy reason development. Exmoor's got a population of 40,000 people. A lot of there's going to be need for this kind of facility, and I heard this Bystock's got a good reputation. I think it's a small development compared to the size of the site, so I'm quite happy to go along with the council. Against council officers and recommend approval as they have suggested. Obviously, I regret the loss of the trees, but kind of glad to see that new trees have been replaced.
Thank you. Yeah, regrettably, some years ago, under a former administration, Devon County Council closed facilities like this and created hubs which weren't successful. And so we have people confined to their homes. They have been, and now, of course, it's turning into quite an industry again. So just a comment I thought I'd make. We've had this before. Councillor Gazzard.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to support this application. Obviously, there is a need for extra daycare facilities in Exmouth due to one reason or another. And with the situation with the COVID at the moment, I think this would be a useful place for people to be able to go. I'm pleased that there are going to be 8 trees now. Well, I'm sad to see the 4 oaks go, but we're going to have 8 trees in their replacement. As has been said, Exmouth Town Council have supported this application, and it has the support of the Exmouth Neighbourhood Plan. So I'm happy to support the recommendation for approval, Chair.
Thank you. Trying to think, Councillor Disarm, did you propose that this be approved?
I did, subject to other members supporting it.
I'll second it.
Right, thank you. Councillor Woodward.
Yes, so I'd like to second the Councillor Jasaram's proposal. I don't want to repeat everything everybody else has said. I just actually do rather like the design of the building. It's a bit like contrast is actually rather beneficial, a bit like the Louvre in Paris with the centre pyramid. So I think the contrast is good, and I like it, and I therefore will vote for approval.
Yeah, it does give it a rustic look.
Yes.
Unless anybody has something more to add.
Hands up.
Right, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm always saddened when it's proposed to remove trees. I understand the greater benefit here, and as other speakers have said, I'm quite pleased knowing the history of this building. I have been in it many years ago. That it is going to be continued to use as some kind of daycare centre. It's had quite a checkered history, including residential. So I'm pleased it's retained for that. This building is obviously a good addition. I wasn't very sure about the design, and it's a rather unusual shape as well, but possibly to accommodate the site. My only concern is, given the very wooded nature of the site already, have sites been identified for the replacement trees? Because I'm never very happy that you fell 4 mature oaks and put in a few saplings in replacement. Eventually those will replace the trees, but I just wonder if actual sites have been identified so that we know that that condition can be carried out effectively.
I seem to recall that they were, but Mr. Rose will be able to tell us, I expect.
Yeah, I don't believe that we have agreed with the applicant the exact location of those trees, but we will do so via our landscape officer and tree officers.
Yeah.
To make sure that exactly the points Councillor Davey's making.
Okay, Councillor Davey. Yeah. Councillor Mclaughlin.
Thank you, Chair. Just to talk about the design of the building, I think it's quite funky. It's quite attractive, but I think this is a residential, or not a residential, sorry, a daycare centre for people, adults with mental health conditions. And I just think if you're on the inside of that, that looks a little bit like a prison. And I don't mean that flippantly at all. If you've got dementia patients in there, they're going to be looking out of there, and goodness only knows what they're going to think. And it's just really, just something I think that we need to think about when we're developing something specifically for adults with physical and mental problems.
Sorry, if I could just interrupt you there.
Yeah, sure.
Not mental health, it's learning disabilities.
So physical and mental disabilities?
No, learning disabilities. That's not
Right.
the same as mental health.
Okay, sorry, I misread
It's all
something
right.
there,
No,
but I still think it would look like a
yeah.
prison from looking out. Okay, thank you, Chair. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. There are no other speakers, so go to Mrs. Shaw to sum up, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, members, you have one motion, and that is to approve with the conditions as listed in the report. Please, would you indicate when your name is called whether you're in support of the motion to approve, you're against the motion to approve, or whether you're abstaining.
Councillor Bloxham.
Yes, support the motion to approve.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Abstain.
Councillor Coleman.
Approve.
Councillor Davey.
Support approval.
Councillor de Sarum.
Support motion to approve with all conditions.
Councillor Gazzard.
Support.
Councillor Howe.
Support.
Councillor Key.
Approve.
Councillor Mclaughlin.
Support.
Councillor Pook.
Support.
Councillor Whibley.
Support.
Councillor Woodward.
Support approval.
Councillor Ragg.
Support approval.
The motion to approve has been carried.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gig. Now can we call Councillor Skinner back from his confinement, please?
You should be in the meeting now.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Agenda item 12, application 202293, full application, Keynes Park Farm, Orliscombe, and that's on page 120. Now we just have one committee ward member, Councillor Key, to speak. So over to you, Mr. Rose, to present your report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So hopefully members will recall this site from the last committee where we had an application from the applicant for an agricultural building that was in this part of the field. So this application is simply for conversion and small extension to the main house to form a studio games room. And it's only here because the applicant is a member of staff. The site is just outside the AOMB and it's a householder application. And you probably recall that they've started up the farming business again, but they also run a storage business from the main site. So this is the building at the moment, clearer from the photos, and they simply want to convert it and small extension in here to be associated with the farmhouse. So it's this building here. So you can see converted with this small extension to provide this lobby and toilet area. So conversion of the building, small extension, and it's this building here, lovely little building in stone. So convert this building and this small extension on the side here. The design that they've proposed is in keeping with the building. It's good that they're going to be reusing it and keeping the materials that will match. There's no impact or harm on the business. There's no amenity impact because the nearest neighbours are a couple of 100 metres away. There have been some activity of bats found in the roof space, so there's a condition there about mitigating to ensure that they're protected during the conversion works. So as I say, it's a quite a straightforward application. It's a good design. It's a good reuse of the building. No harm, so it's recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Right, Councillor Key.
Yes.
Mr. Peake.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I've no problems at all with this, and put forward the recommendation of approval.
Second.
Thank you, and that's been seconded by Councillor Howe. Councillor Skinner, the only thing new to add?
No, I was gonna second it. That's what I put my hand up for. But no, just
Okay.
fine. Just leave it. Let's let it go. That's fine. I was going to support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Shaw?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, members, this is just one motion to approve, subject to the conditions listed. Please indicate whether you're in support of the motion to approve, against the motion to approve, or whether you're abstaining.
Thank you.
Councillor Bloxham.
Support to approve.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Support.
Councillor Coleman.
Support.
Councillor Davey.
Support.
Councillor Desarum.
Support motion to approve with conditions.
Councillor Gazzard.
Support.
Councillor Howe.
Support.
Councillor Key.
Approve.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Approve.
Councillor Pook.
Approve.
Councillor Skinner.
Approve.
Councillor Whibley.
Support.
Councillor Woodward.
Support approval.
Councillor Ragg.
Support approval.
Approval has been carried.
Thank you. Right, now, agenda item 13, application 202310, full Ware Barn, Ware Line Regis, page 127. There are no speakers. So, Mr. Rose, to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an application for construction of a greenhouse in the garden to the property. It's only before you because the applicant is a member of the council and it's in a domestic garden. We've got a Grade 2 listed manor here, and we're also in the AONB and the coastal preservation area. The building itself, this is related to, isn't listed, so it's not Kirklees listed. And you can see the location of the garden, and this is what's proposed. This greenhouse, sort of Victorian style greenhouse, approximately 6 meters by 3.5 by 3.7, brick and glass construction, and it's proposed in this garden area. The design and appearance and scale is appropriate. It won't harm the character or appearance of the area. There's no ecological harm. There's quite a distance to the nearest neighbour, and in any case, the building's quite modest in its size. There's no harm to the setting of the adjoining listed building either. So in those terms, the application is considered to be acceptable, suitable design, no harm, so it's recommended for approval.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Key.
Thank you, Chairman. I have to declare, I think we all know that the applicant, but yes, I mean, I've seen this, I know where it is, and I've no hesitation in putting forward for approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to second that, Madam Chairman.
You're seconding Councillor Skinner.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could I have a few words? A few words?
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm sure the applicant will be watching and looking at the photos that we got here from Mr. Rose. He really needs to get out in the garden and get sorted out because he's got a lot of weed. He's got a lot of work to do. Sort yourself out, Thomas. Get it all sorted because it's really not very good. Anyway, other than that, let's go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, I see no other speakers. We go to Mrs. Shaw, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, members, one motion approval with the conditions as listed. Again, when your name is called, please indicate whether you're in support of approval, against approval, or you're abstaining.
Councillor Bloxham.
Support of approval.
Councillor Brown. Oh no, he's not here. Sorry. Councillor Chamberlain.
Support.
Councillor Coleman.
Support.
Councillor Davey.
Support.
Councillor De Sarum.
Support with conditions as listed.
Councillor Gazzard.
Support.
Councillor Howe.
Support.
Councillor Key.
Approve.
Councillor Mclaughlin.
Support.
Councillor Pook.
Support.
Councillor Skinner.
Support.
Councillor Whibley.
Support.
Councillor Woodward.
Support approval.
Councillor Ragg.
Support approval.
Thank you. Approval has been carried.
Thank you. Right, that brings our meeting to an end. Thank you to everyone, including members of the public watching online, for taking part. However, can I just remind all those present that the supporting officer will confirm when the meeting is no longer being recorded or going live. But until then, your comments will be live to the public. So thank you very much, everybody. Thanks to the officers as well.
Thank you, Chair.
For ensuring that this one went relatively smooth.